Why does God allow suffering? It's a question we all ask ourselves. It's a question that, because it has been left unanswered by so many people, that people have been walking away from Christ because they know that in the Bible it says He's good, He's perfect, He's holy. So why does He allow suffering? Why does He allow natural disasters, diseases, pain, death? Why does He allow it? I mean, we're suffering, and we're crying to God, why? And we feel like He doesn't care, you know? He's up there, and we're down here. He's all big and mighty. Why can't He do something? That's just the tip of the iceberg. So let's go underneath the iceberg, okay? Let's see what God's actually thinking. Well, before I answer the question, I need to get one thing straight with you guys. That we were once perfect. The human race, the whole earth, was perfect. There was no death. There was no suffering. God put Adam in the Garden of Eden, and everything was perfect. He says it in the Word. And He says, you must not eat from the tree of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. She took some of the fruit after she was tempted. She took some of the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She was tempted by the serpent. And she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. They both ate it. And you know what happened? Death came into the world. Things started dying. People started dying. Plants started dying. They were kicked out of the garden. They were forced to fend for themselves and to grow their own food. And you know what happened when death entered the world? Suffering came. Suffering, we suffer because it is a side effect of death, and death is a result of sin. We sinned, death came into the world, and now there's suffering. It's as simple as that. But now that we know, okay, we suffer because there's death because we sin, we're all sinners in the sight of God. You know, we've all fallen short of the glory of God. We're all liars, etc. So if God knew we were going to sin, He knew everything. He knew the future. So why did He put that tree there? Well, because He wanted to give us a choice, and without a choice, we're robots. God didn't want these people who did not have a choice to worship Him to worship Him. He wanted people to have a choice to worship Him because He wanted people to love Him. In a legitimate and serious way, love Him. He gave everybody that choice because He wanted us to choose Him over sin, but we didn't. We chose sin over God that resulted in death, and now there's suffering in the world. There's famine, there's people starving, there's death, and it's our fault. You say, well, I didn't sin. You know, I wasn't at the tree, why do I suffer? Tell me you haven't sinned. Tell me you have never once told a white lie, a little fib. You never once boasted about how awesome you were. You were never prideful. You never looked at a woman and thought, oh, wow, she's good looking. You never thought any of that? You never did anything? Well, I guarantee you, you have sinned. Because that's what the Bible says. It says we've all fallen short of the glory of God. We have sinned in His sight, so we are partly at fault. We are, as a whole, at fault for death and suffering in the world. Because now the world is imperfect because of it. Now that we're imperfect, you could say we have a hole in us. We're wandering the world with our friends and our family, and we're looking for fulfillment, for satisfaction, and for happiness that never ends, that doesn't depend on if we have Wi-Fi or if our computer is fully charged. Where we don't have to depend on whether I have money to buy that pack of cigs I've been wanting. We don't have to depend on that. That's the happiness that we all desire. And you know what? God knew that. God knew that we needed to be satisfied, that we want to be satisfied. And the only thing we will ever be satisfied is with God. He has made us like that. He has made us with a desire for God. We might not all admit it, but it's true. Because we will never fulfill that desire. Nobody has ever fulfilled that desire until they came to God. And God knew that. He saw the gap, and He filled it by sending His Son to die. Well, how does Jesus dying cover my sin? That doesn't make sense. Imagine it like this. You go into court because you had a speeding ticket. Somebody has to pay for it. You could pay for it. But then Jesus says, hey, there's a man named Jesus. He says, hey, I'll pay for it. I'll take your court order so you don't have to pay for it. You say, what do I have to do? He says, nothing. It's a gift. Well, we committed crimes against God. Crimes worthy of death. And He said, nothing can make up for this but you dying and going to hell because we have committed sin. That's why there's hell. But He says, you know what? I'm going to send my Son. He's perfect, and he will stay perfect on earth. And when He is crucified, He will take the punishment that you need, that you deserve. That way, I can allow you into heaven. And I don't care if He's going to suffer what you need to suffer in hell, because I love you. That's what He said. I'm going to go to hell. We're all going to go to hell unless Jesus pays my fines and He serves my time. How does Jesus do that for me? Well, I'm going to use Jesus' own words. He said, go and sin no more. That's the first thing you got to do. Now it's one whole step here. Second and third thing you need to do is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength.
You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Once you're doing step or 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it, what you need to do is continue to seek God and pray consistently. You also need to stop interrupting your brothers when they make videos, because it's kind of getting sickening. I have to make this video 3 times. It's always a bad time, isn't it? And I edified you. Peace out. Mom, when is it a good time then? Baby's screaming like, or